When I was 5, my grandfather died. I watched him die. I held his hand as he died. His battle with cancer was a hard one for me to cope with, and the nightmares afterwards were suitably intense. However, none would surpass the dreams that I've started to have a week after his passing. A week later, I had my first of what seems like hundreds of dreams of the character I dubbed the Green Man. In the dream, a man in a yellow hood with green warty skin told me that my house wasn't safe and that I needed to follow him. He emerged from my clothing rack in my closet, and he didn't seem to walk with his legs. Rather, he floated across the ground at a walking pace. In fact, I'm not sure this Green Man even had legs. His cloak drooped so low where legs would exist on a normal human, so who knows? In this dream, I got out of bed and followed the Green Man to the side yard of my grandma's house, where he told me that I needed to cross if I wanted to be safe. He gestured at the road in front of me, but instead of a road, it was a purple, flowing river filled with large fish. The water rushed very powerfully and the fish seemed malicious. I was so scared that I wanted to cry. I couldn't cross. Ultimately, the Green Man left me as he crossed the purple water. I woke up as soon as he disappeared. I was standing on the edge of the road, ready to step off the curb. Every time after this first dream, he would lead me to a different place so I could escape my house, and every time, I was blocked by a barrier and woke up in the real world analog of that place. I've woken up in my grandma's shed, in her bathroom, in my neighbor's yard, etc. And every time, there was some sort of physical barrier stopping me. One time, it was skeletons hanging from trees. Another, it was flaming grass, and so on. Every time, there was a dire reason for me to escape, but I never could. I stopped having these dreams when I turned 11. I'm now 24 and I haven't thought about the Green Man since. The memory of this guy was buried so deep that I literally forgot the hundreds of times that I sleptwalked into random places and almost got myself hurt. However, my grandmother called me and asked me if I had remembered my sleepwalking as a kid. Evidently, my brother is also sleepwalking and doing really weird stuff in his sleep. No mention of the Green Man, however. Last night, I had a dream where the Green Man crawled up from under my bed and told me that my grandmother was going to die if I didn't go help her. He led me down my stairs and out my front door, where again the road was a purple stream and I immediately knew I was dreaming. In my dream, I had stepped out of my front door and onto my porch. I had my keys in my hand and a cigarette in my mouth. I woke up on my front porch, ready to light a cigarette. I'm scared that I'll see him again. What causes this? My therapist said that he is the manifestation of my grief and abuse as a kid, but that doesn't explain why I sleepwalk, or why he tells me cryotic things. I'm getting really freaked out and I'm scared one time I won't wake up and I will end up getting hurt. More importantly, I'm worried for my brother and his safety. What if his dream world doesn't have barriers like mine did? He's 16 and he has access to a car. I'm super concerned that he was going to get seriously hurt or worse, and I'm not entirely sure how to stop it. I'm even scared to mention the Green Man to him, because if he also says he has dreams of a Green Man, then I'm not sure my psyche can handle it. It would confirm some sort of supernatural reality that I really want to deny. If he doesn't have the Green Man dream, then I can continue to believe this is some weird, psychological damage caused by witnessing death at such a young age. Since people are going to ask, I'm going to go ahead and describe this figure to the best of my ability. He stands about 6 feet tall, wears a bright yellow cloak with a hood that covers the top of his head right down to his eyes. His eyebrows seem to be made of some sort of algae or moss, and his skin is covered in warts. He is a deep forest green with coal black eyes and a scar on his left cheek that is bright red, and seems to leak a purplish fluid that he often wipes away as he speaks. His voice is like a combination of Darth Vader and Orlando Bloom as Legolas, in that it is deep and grating but also sing-songy and welcoming. He doesn't seem to walk but rather float about 6 inches off the ground, artificially increasing his height. He doesn't have any symbols on him that I can discern, just that mustard yellow cloak and his oozing scar. I can't tell if he is malicious, but he has full control over me in my dream state, as if I'm under a spell, until I encounter an obstacle in the dream world. I wish I knew what this was. I'll reply if he returns tonight. I recently made a post about reoccurring nightmares I had about a green man that I've had since I was about 8. To summarize, the green man would always tell me in dreams to go into the road or into my neighbor's shed, and I would sleepwalk towards those areas only to wake up. I also mentioned my brother has been sleepwalking lately, but found out that it wasn't related to the green man, and I've kinda let my guard down on that. This brings us up to 3 days ago when I first saw her. I was lying in bed with my partner, and from the upper corner of the bedroom, I could see movement. I sat up and a whole person was in the corner of the room looking into my eyes. I immediately thought I knew I was asleep, because during my green man dreams I had the same experience of a person materializing in my room and looking at me. Also in line with the green man, I couldn't scream or make any other noises, let alone move. I was frozen in a trance-like state, which is something I've grown used to over the last 16 years of my life. The woman remained silent the whole time and walked from the far corner of my bedroom to next to the door and gestured for me to follow. And so I did, very much against my will. I got up and I walked down the stairs into my living room, where she proceeded to step into the wall and disappear. After she disappeared into the wall, I must have fallen asleep because I was having standard dreams about work and my family, until she appeared again and I was now in my kitchen, with her gesturing to my back door. As I went to open the back door, she vanished into the walls again, and I was back to a normal dream. I woke up an unknown amount of time later, sitting in my living room thinking to myself, what a creepy nightmare. I need to take my sleep meds so I don't keep sleepwalking. And I lit a cigarette with my Zippo lighter. As I was going to close my lighter, she flew out from the wall at me and blew out the flame, and then flew through me and disappeared. I was 100% conscious at that time. I roll my own cigarettes, and if I had been sleepwalking, I would have not been able to get into the correct amount of tobacco and fill the paper to then roll and lick. Also, my Zippo was open with the flame freshly out, and the wick was still smoldering. Every night since, she has appeared in my dreams but not spoken. I've been taking heavy sedatives so I don't sleepwalk, and as an extra precaution, my partner and I switched the sides of the bed that we were on, so that she would wake up if I ever got out of bed. I'm scared now that I managed to get possessed or that I'm haunted. How can I be sure? So, for the past 6 months or so, I've been feeling a certain presence around me. It's nothing scary and I haven't actually seen them. Basically what happens is that I'll see something or someone in my peripheral vision, then nothing is there when I turn to look. Sometimes I see it when I'm walking down the street. Sometimes I see it in my rearview mirror when I'm driving in my car. But I can never look dead at it. Back in November 2019, I was almost in a really bad car wreck. Someone traveling in the opposite direction of my car had fallen asleep at the wheel, and they had swerved into my lane. They almost hit me head on while I was going around 65 miles an hour. At the last minute, I jerked the wheel and I ended up on the side of the road, with no scratches at all in my person or vehicle. After it had happened, I had a panic attack and realized just how crazy that was. I know I should have been hit. I know that something should have happened. This car got so close to mine and we both somehow just missed one another. When I was having my little panic attack, I could feel someone with me in the car. I could just feel deep down that someone or something intervened and basically had saved my life. Last week, I read a post about someone who asked their ghost to give them a sign, a blue car, and so I did the same thing. I spoke out loud and said, "Hey, I don't know if I'm being paranoid or if someone is actually here with me right now, but please give me a sign so that I know that someone is here." The sign was for me to see an orange Corvette, a favorite color and car, within the next 24 hours. And what do you know? I saw two before the 24 hours was up. Those cars are not very popular where I live, so it was really strange to see two in one day, let alone both of them being orange. I guess my advice that I'm seeking would be, what's next? I have no idea who this person could be. Why are they following me around? Why are they protecting me from crazy accidents in everyday life? Ever since I saw the Corvettes, I've been feeling the presence grow stronger, like it's there more often now or something. I'm new to this whole thing, so has anybody else experienced anything like this? What did you do? What do you think? Let me know. So I don't really know how to explain this, or if it even fits on this sub, or even what actually happened if I'm being honest. But regardless, I'll try to relay this story. I was driving to work yesterday morning and I'm coming up a side street that connects to a very busy road in my area. It's the main road that stretches through like 20 towns. I get to the red light at this main road and sit there for about 15 seconds before seeing a car pull up behind me. As the car comes to a complete stop behind me, my eyes drift from the rearview mirror to the stoplight in front of me. It was red still. I then look down at my radio clock and it says 7:36. And this is going to sound strange, but for a period of time, that seemed to stretch on until infinity. I kind of felt like this intense pressure was all around me, like I was zoned out and I couldn't clear my head, or move my body because I was obsessed with the numbers that I was seeing. Like I was in a trance or something and it wasn't silent around me, but it was at the same time. Like very, very loud, pressing silence. I couldn't move, but I also wasn't trying to move. Almost like I was paralyzed with fear, and I knew I was frozen, but couldn't really process it or try to move. I don't know. I really can't explain it. Even now, it's so confusing to me. After who knows how long of being stuck in this trance, suddenly everything snaps back to normal. Instantly. The very first thing I register is that the person behind me is laying on their horn. I look up and I see the light is green. I begin to drive forward, feeling completely 100% normal again. And once I get into the middle of the intersection, I sense this large presence to the left of me. I turn my head to look out my driver's side window just in time to see a huge truck coming right at me. It hits me, and I could feel my body break. I felt and heard so many of my bones get absolutely crushed. Suddenly, I'm upside down in my car, in so much pain that I can hardly breathe, covered in glass, and I can hear someone screaming. The last thing I remember before I passed out about 10 seconds later was seeing cop lights and distinctly thinking to myself, wow, how did they get here so fast? This is important. The next thing I remember, I open my eyes and I'm sitting in my car at the red light. The intense pain that I felt a moment ago is fading fast, but it's still there. Almost like a ghost version of itself, if that makes sense. I'm intensely confused at this point, and I start looking around in a panicky way, and my eyes trail across the clock again. It says 7:36 and I'm just beyond confused. I know it wasn't a daydream. It was so real. I'm frozen in place staring at the clock trying to figure out what the heck just happened. After about 5 or 10 seconds, I hear the person behind me start to beep at me, but I'm shaking and I'm about to cry, and so overwhelmed with leftover fear that I can't even react to it. They start to lay on their horn and I still can't move because I'm just so confused and frightened. Now at this point, I was starting to calm myself down and trying to rationalize what happened. I was beginning to convince myself that it had to have just been a daydream. It was early enough and I was tired enough that I even started to think I just nodded off at the red light and I had dreamed the crash. What the hell else could have happened, right? If it weren't for what happened next, I probably would have been able to go the rest of my life believing that I had fallen asleep and dreamed it. The moment the clock turned 7:37, like the very second the numbers changed, a huge truck comes barreling through the light, definitely speeding. They ran their red light and crossed right in front of my car. A few seconds later, a cop, who must have just been driving behind the truck in the first place, runs the red light as well, turning on his lights in the process and beginning to pursue the speeding truck. They both drove out of my view within a few seconds. I was so shaken I just pulled my car to the side of the road, right where I was, and sat there in silence, for I don't even know how long. Like, what normal explanation could I possibly come up with for this? There isn't one. I hadn't seen the truck or the cop car before they ran the lights in front of me. So how did the dream crash that I had include those very specific and very real details? The entire area that I live in is covered in trees, so it's not like I can see very far down the road in either direction. I know for a fact I did not see the truck or the cop car before I experienced the crash. I'm still so shaken. How do I rationalize this experience to myself? I feel disillusioned by something, but I don't even know what. I feel like I'm going crazy. I needed to share this with people who won't automatically dismiss this as a hallucination or a dream. Hi everyone, this is my first time posting and I want to give a brief description of my background and then delve into what happened. I consider myself to be a Christian. However, I'm not Christian in the sense of I don't go to church every Sunday, and I don't believe the Bible is 100% true. I know it was a written book by man and edited by man. I do believe the Bible has a place in my belief. I believe it holds wisdom and knowledge important to my faith. I believe in Jesus and God. I also believe there is more out there. I believe there is good and I believe there is evil. And I think I am empathetic to a degree. I'm learning that how I feel and how I react to the world around me is different than some people, and that there are ways to help with this. I know I could go on for a long time, but that's a brief history. Anyway, so my anxiety has been through the roof. I can't sleep well, and when I do, my dreams are so vivid. And I've had a couple of dreams that directly relate to something going on in someone else's lives that I have no clue of until I dreamt it and reached out to them. It's starting to scare me. And so I decided to try something to cleanse myself. I'm new to this, so please, don't judge or bash me. So here's my experience. I went outside. There's a storm moving in. The wind is blowing and there's lightning to my north, with the occasional rumble of thunder. I feel silly, but I light my white candle, which I would like to know did not stay lit for more than a minute because of the wind, but I figure it's the idea of it, right? So I lit my candle and I made my salt circle. When I closed the circle, I could feel a snap. It felt like the world was lifted off my shoulders and I could breathe. I could think. I closed my eyes and I began to pray. I prayed for strength and healing. I prayed for the cleansing of my soul and my energy. I prayed for protection on my family and myself. I prayed for wisdom. I prayed for strength and wisdom to cleanse my home, to protect it, to help me be a beacon of light to my family, to fill our home with love and laughter, to feel the presence of the Lord when someone walks in. I prayed for God to give me energy from the earth to cleanse my home and my spirit and my family. At this point, I hear something moving on the ground. I looked down and I thought it was one of our cats for a moment, and I couldn't get my brain to work because it was too big to be our cats and none of our cats are allowed outside. I then realized it was a possum. It turned and looked at me, came to the circle, stayed there for a moment, and then walked away. I thought it was odd, but I continued my prayer. It wasn't until I came in the house and relayed my experience to my husband that he pointed out that he thinks the opossum was a manifestation of my prayers, my spirit animal. But this is all brand new to me. Was it just a fluke or could it have been something more?